I'm thinking about this pleasure, pain, suffering, enjoying thing right now. Oh, look at Guy. Yeah, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about it in relation to consciousness, and I'm thinking about it in relation to embodiment. Because it's, all those things are all tangled up together, you know what I mean? We have these bodies, and we're conscious of having these bodies, or conscious of being these bodies, if you want to look at it that way. And then we're conscious of the fact that these bodies hurt sometimes, or that they enjoy themselves sometimes. And of course, we're kind of aware of the fact that our consciousness of those things is a product of those bodies, and a product of those, what Gary's referred to as first ouches, the ouches and the oohs and the oopses and all those kind of things. So it's this weird kind of plaited fabric of connection between the embodiment we have and the consciousness we have, and the set of feelings, if you want, or the sensory responses that those have, and the positive and negative valencies attached to those responses. In some ways, I think it's a shame that it's kind of worked out that way. It'd be much more interesting, I think, if they were detached. You know what I mean? If we had these bodies, and they could kind of positively and negatively evaluate experience. You don't need to think about it as pain, but they had some kind of negative and positive evaluations which would keep them out of trouble. And then we had consciousness, but it wasn't our bodies that were conscious, it was something else. And I was thinking it'd be really interesting if genes were conscious. I don't just mean every single gene in my body, but I mean a single gene, wherever it is, has a single consciousness. So there's one consciousness which represents, I don't know, the whole gene, or the whole gene sequence for brown eyes. Yeah, that's that little gene sequence which codes for brown eyes is conscious, and it's and because there's a lot of brown eyes in the world, this consciousness just kind of spreads out across the world. It doesn't stretch very much into Scandinavia, where people have mostly got blue eyes, and it doesn't stretch much into where else have people got blue? Anyway, it doesn't stretch anywhere where people got blue eyes, but it kind of feels itself to be wrapped around those parts of the world wherever there's a brown eye gene present. And then there'd be another gene which is also conscious for blue eyes, and that will feel itself to be very present in Scandinavian countries and those countries where people are blue-eyed. But it will also feel itself to be present in perhaps a slightly different form in other parts of the world, because the gene for blue eyes is recessive, so people who have blue eyes often have genes for blue eyes. So it would kind of feel itself to be a bit there, but perhaps less so. But it would be overlapping, you know what I mean? It would be occupying the same kind of conceptual space. And then there'd be another gene for, I don't know, hair colour, and there'd be another gene for sickle cell anemia, and there'd be another. All these genes would have different consciousnesses, and they'll all be coexistent, and all present in slightly different parts of the world with different kind of presence profiles wherever they crop up. And of course, the bodies that those genes are partly existent within would rise and fall. They would breed and die, but the consciousness of the gene itself, this grand global gene consciousness, wouldn't die in that way. It would have like an ongoing, continuous existence in the way that we have, despite the death of all of our cells every few seconds. So there'd be a continuity, despite as I say, the constant falling away of the individual instantiations of those genes. I mean, that would be interesting. I don't know whether you would need to give gene consciousness a pleasure and pain thing. I don't suppose there'd be much point, really. What would be the point? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's all really. That's all I've got to say.